Have you ever heard about food security? If not, this video is for you. Food security is the availability of food required to support the household, region, country, or any specified area. Food security exists when all people, at all times, have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. There are four components in food security, which are food availability, food access, food utilization, and stability. Food availability relates to the supply of food through production, distribution, and exchange. Food access refers to the affordability and allocation of food, as well as the preferences of individuals and households. Food utilization refers to the metabolism of food by individuals, and stability refers to the ability to obtain food over time. It is important to have food security because it can prevent overeating and inhibit weight gain. Controlling feeding styles decreases the ability of children to self-regulate eating behaviors, which may lead to future childhood obesity. Besides, it can help us to improve our nutrition needs as well as promoting a healthier lifestyle. It can also decrease unwanted behaviors, anxiety and stress. However, food security can be affected by several factors. The first one is population growth. When human population increases, the demand for food increases as well. This might result to the availability of food for the time being cannot support the high demand when human population is highly increased. Global water crisis could also affect the food security. Water table reserves are falling in many countries such as northern China, the US, and India due to the widespread overpumping and irrigation. Next is climate change. The rise of global temperature begins to have a ripple effect on crop yields, forest resources, water supplies, and altering the balance of nature. Land degradation happens due to intensive farming, which leads to a vicious cycle of exhaustion of soil fertility and decline of agricultural yields. Agricultural diseases are a common problem faced by the farmers. Diseases affecting livestock or crops can have devastating effects on food availability, especially if there are no contingency plans in place. Human is also one of the factors that affect the food security. Greedy land deals were done by irresponsible people. They buy rights to millions of acres of agricultural land in developing countries to secure their own long-term food supplies. All of these factors can lead to food insecurity. Food insecurity is inability to afford nutritionally adequate and safe food. There are three types of food insecurity, which are transitory or temporal, seasonal, and chronic. Transitory or temporal refers to unavailability of food during certain periods of time, due to price changes, production failures, loss of income, loss of employment or productivity. Seasonal food insecurity is resulted from the regular pattern of growing seasons in food production. Last is chronic food insecurity, which refers to inadequate food intake over a longer period of time and is constant. Food insecurity causes the nutrients intake becomes low, and this can lead to lifelong diseases, such as diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Furthermore, it might result in premature failure of vital organs during adulthood. For example, a 50-year-old individual might die of heart failure because his or her heart suffers structural defects during early development. Besides, stunted individuals suffer a higher rate of diseases and illness than those who have not undergone stunting. For non-seniors, food insecurity decreases the nutrient intakes, increases rates of mental health problems and depression, diabetes, hypertension, and hyperlipidemia. Worse outcomes on health exams, being in poor or fair health, and poor sleep outcomes. Meanwhile, for seniors, food insecurity also causes a low intake of nutrients. They are more likely to be in poor or fair health, and have limitations in activities of daily life. Everyone can be affected by food insecurity, and children are not an exception. They may face slow learning process and productivity. Severe malnutrition in early childhood often leads to defects in cognitive development, and more likely to get sick and have a harder time to recover. Food insecurity is associated with the increased risks of some birth defects, anemia, low nutrient intakes, cognitive problems, and aggression and anxiety. It is also associated with higher risks of being hospitalized and poorer general health. Therefore, it is important to improve food security. Yield gap is referred to the difference between crops' maximum potential yield and real yield. By closing the yield gap from one production to another, the availability of food can be increased. Using fertilizers efficiently by adjustment of timing, placement, and type of fertilizer might help in improving food security. Besides, the use of genetically modified crops could be effective to create high-yield strains resistant to local climate and diseases. This is one of the most up-and-coming techniques to ensure global food security. The genome of these crops can be altered to address one or more aspects of the plant that may prevent it from being grown in various regions under certain conditions. Improving agricultural productivity to benefit the rural poor. 3/4 of the world's poor live in rural areas and make their living from agriculture. Hunger and child malnutrition are greater in these areas than in urban areas. Moreover, the higher the proportion of the rural population that obtains its income solely from subsistence farming, without the benefit of pro-poor technologies and access to markets, the higher the incidence of malnutrition. Therefore, improvements in agricultural productivity aimed at small-scale farmers will benefit the rural poor first. Lastly is reducing food waste. Since 2013, France has passed laws prohibiting grocery stores from discarding unsold food items, requiring that they instead donate the food to designated charities. We can also practice this by not buying food in an excessive amount. That's all for today. Hopefully you get a bit more understanding about food security.